How's it going, team? How's everybody doing out there? My name is Justin LaRocca Hansen. I am the author and illustrator of the picture book Monster Hunter and the graphic novel trilogy Secondhand Heroes. I was asked by Mrs. Pankowski's Life 101 class over at West Bridgewater High School to do a little video talking about my kind of career path and what kind of advice I might have or things like that. So hello to Mrs. Pankowski's class. What's happening? Thanks for having me. And for anybody else, feel free to follow along. Maybe you'll find some of this fun to watch, but if not, no worries. Okay, so like I said, I am an author and an illustrator, and I wanted to be an illustrator right from the get-go. As soon as I could hold a crayon, I was drawing. My grandma LaRocca, where I get my middle name, she took care of me a lot when I was younger, when my parents would work and things like that. And we would watch like Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff like that together, and she would encourage me to draw the aliens. And so coming up, I had a very encouraging family as far as drawing went. And even in school, elementary, middle, and high school, my teachers were very encouraging. So I was very fortunate to have that. I remember Mr. Naughton, my high school history teacher. He I drew on everything. I drew all the time. And so my notes were covered in drawings. We'd be learning about, whatever, the War of 1812. And, there'd be some notes about the War of 1812, and then there would be a drawing of Thanos, which I think Thanos and the War of 1812 probably go well together, right? But rather than discouraging me from doing that, Mr. Naughton pulled me aside and just said, feel free to draw. It's okay to doodle, but do it on a separate piece of paper so that I can read your notes. So that was, I had a lot of moments like that with teachers who could have told me to stop drawing like during class, and they didn't, which was pretty cool. I'm also really lucky in that, I always knew what I wanted to do, right? Right from the get-go, I wanted to draw, and I wanted to try to make a living doing that. And not everybody knows what they want to be when they grow up right away, right? And sometimes that changes as you get older and stuff. So I'm very fortunate and lucky to have figured that out early. And you don't need to figure it out early. You can have no idea. There's plenty of time to figure all that out. But for me, I kind of knew. So I grew up with picture books and comics and watching movies, especially like older 80s movies like The Goonies and Gremlins and Neverending Story, stuff like that. I love those stories. And so that was the type of stuff, the type of things I wanted to draw and the stories I wanted to tell. So after high school, I went to Ringling College of Art and Design, which is in Sarasota, Florida. It is not too shabby to go to a college that is near the beach. I'm from Millis, Mass, but I kind of, in the summers, I grew up in Cape Cod, but near the beach, and that's kind of home for me. And so it was felt like home, just like warmer, much warmer and sweatier, and whatever, more Florida. But I liked it at Ringling, and the most important thing I think I got out of college was actually some of the connections that I made, some of the friends that I have now. I made while at Ringling. When I ended up moving to New York City, I moved in with people from Ringling. So that ended up being pretty important. So I actually did 5 years of college, because when I first went to Ringling, I was going to be a computer animation major, and at the time, computer animation was this big new job, and it was really well paying at the time. Now it's not as well paying, but that was like the bubble, the glory days of computer animation. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do that and make some money, but I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy being in front of the computer for hours and hours and hours. You would, as a computer animation major, you work in basically a cave. It's 65 degrees, to keep the computers, running perfectly and stuff. And I hated it. So I was fine at it. I was good at it, but I did not enjoy it. So I switched back to illustration. So I had to do my sophomore year twice, and I'm happy I did. So after college, I moved back home to Massachusetts, where I started teaching a little bit. I always enjoyed teaching. In the summers, I taught swimming lessons and stuff. And right after college, I got a job offer from a friend of a friend at a school, at Foxborough High School, actually, right by Gillette Stadium. We got the Brady news the other day, the Tom Brady going to the Bucks, and it's still fresh, still hurts. So I'm going to try to do this. I don't know if you can tell, but I've been crying on the inside for days. Just kidding, not really. So I taught it at Foxborough. And in the meantime, I'm, you send out your portfolio, you can make up like postcards and things like that, promotional artwork, things with, business cards and things like that with your work on it. You send that out to art directors, and you hope for illustration work. And I got a little bit, but I kind of realized that if I really wanted to make a go of it, I needed to go to where all that work was, which is New York City. So in 2005, I moved to New York City. And my parents were all they were really encouraging. Again, very lucky that nobody kind of poo-pooed my dreams, right? My aspirations. I did have some friends who were like, cool, have fun in New York. You'll be back in 3 months, but it's been 15 years now. I'm still here. So I moved to New York City, and I got a job at the Scholastic store, which was like a bookstore, toy store. My thinking was that I would be able to run into like an art director, an editor, and show them my work. And this plan actually worked. It took about 3 years for it to do it, but or maybe 2 years. But I started out as like a party host, like hosting kids' birthday parties at the Scholastic store. That store doesn't exist anymore, but we'd have like celebrities, kids, and stuff like that. It was really funny. I think the coolest one was Hugh Jackman's kids. Hugh Jackman was at one of the birthday parties. Their kids was at the birthday party, and Hugh Jackman was there. Wolverine, if you don't know. And I made some stupid joke about an 80s song or something, and he laughed. So if nothing else, I've made Wolverine smile, which was pretty sweet at the time. So while I was working at the Scholastic store, I met an art director. She was buying some books. She's got her employee discount, and I was like, oh, you're an art director. Here's my work, And that was around the time that I wrote Monster Hunter. I was trying to get a lot of illustration jobs, kind of just do illustration, and I realized I wanted to illustrate my own ideas and things. So I started writing more. And with Monster Hunter, I kind of put two things about me together. One is that I love drawing monsters. And then two, I'm a cluttered, kind of messy person. As a kid, it was always, a little messy. Not dirty, just cluttered, right? So this kid in Monster Hunter is cluttered. But the reason for the clutter, for the messes, are these monsters that he fights. So I wrote that and submitted it to her. And if you can ever have a connection, even like a small connection like that, because so now I was able to like have her name and be like, hi, I met you in the Scholastic store. Here's the story I wrote. Even that small, tiny connection, I really think is a big deal. It helps you. Gives you a better chance of getting picked up and stuff. Anytime you can do any type of networking in your field, in your career, any type of events, like the more people you know, the more people you connect with, the greater opportunities you're going to have to do whatever it is that you want to do. So we went through all these revisions, and she made the book so much better, and they were getting close to officially signing it. And this was in 2008 when the economy went really bad. The stock market crashed and stuff, and we had a recession. So Scholastic put a freeze on all new authors. They weren't, they don't want to take any risks. So So it didn't work out, right? Which was a huge bummer because that was like my biggest almost break at the time. You know, I got illustration jobs here and there, but you know, I was living paycheck to paycheck, working as a party clown, not really a party clown, a birthday party host at the Scholastic store. But you know, you keep going, and that's the most important thing I think in any field, is to be persistent. You will experience failure again and again, and the best thing that you can do is to try to learn from it and keep at it. And if it's something that you really want to do, keep at it. So that's what I did. I kept at it. I started submitting more to agents. And in this time, you know, around then, I also started writing Secondhand Heroes, my graphic novels. So I ended up getting an agent by submitting to lots of agents. I got an agent who signed me because of the graphic novels, and then I was also like, well, by the way, I also got this picture book you can take a look at. So she ended up selling Monster Hunter first, actually, and in 2012. So I wrote it in 2007, almost picked up in 2008, and then, you know, years later in 2012, it finally got published. It took me about 3 or 4 months to finish all the illustrations for it. And shortly after that, Secondhand Heroes got picked up. And now I always envisioned it as a trilogy, and I was really lucky that Dial Books for Young Readers picked it up. They bought all 3 books, so they wanted to publish it as a trilogy, which is awesome. Because, you know, the first one ends in a cliffhanger, and it just doesn't make sense if only one book came out, right? So they, so from 2013 to 2000, gosh, 17, 18, I was just constantly working on these books. It took me 5 years to finish all the artwork for Secondhand Heroes. And it was like, I was working from 9 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week, basically for 5 years. You know, there's you know, weeks with a, you know, break, or every once in a while I would take a week or something like that. But it was just constant work, to the point where I developed like injuries. You didn't know, I didn't know that you could injure yourself drawing. Apparently it's a high impact sport. But yeah, I developed all of like these elbow injury and wrist problems just from those little movements of drawing, right? Inking. And so there was all those, you know, things like that to deal with. And meanwhile, you're submitting your work and having to revise things. And so it was a lot of up and down, you know, because like this is what I always wanted to accomplish. This was my dream. But it is, you know, it's hard. And again, it's persistence. You know, keep, you know, you got to keep at it. And that's still how it goes now. Secondhand Heroes is all out there in the world, and so is Monster Hunter. And now, you know, I'm trying to get other books off the ground. I have other picture books and another graphic novel that I'm working on. And I'm at the point where, you know, you kind of revise things, and then you have to send it off to an agent, and then the agent sends it off to a publisher. You know, with publishing, it's a very long process. But I do get more commissions, commission work, and I go to Comic-Cons, and I have a table at Artist Alley, and I sell my artwork more and stuff like that. So I get to, you know, make a living drawing and writing, you know, much more than I used to. But I still teach, right? There's this really horrible statistic, and these numbers are going to be wrong, but you'll get the gist, okay? So it was something along the lines of there's like 250,000 working writers in America, right? And only 200 of them actually make a living just from writing. And I am not one of those 200. So everybody else needs other sources of income. I teach preschool actually 3 days a week. So I teach part-time, and then I do illustration and write and all that, you know, the rest of the time, the other 4 days of the week. So that's kind of a brief little history of my career. A couple other questions Mrs. Pankowski wanted me to answer was, how did others respond to my aspirations and things. And like I think I answered that, but everybody was pretty encouraging, with the exception of a couple of friends who weren't discouraging. They were just kind of just expected me to be back, And then oh yeah, what advice would you give my junior, senior high school self? I think I would, if I could go back in time and tell myself to like to breathe, take it easy. There's so much pressure on you in high school, and it almost, like you look back on it, and it almost seems silly to have all that pressure on kids, young adults who are still figuring things out, and you never stop figuring things out. I haven't figured out anything. I just turned 40 the other day. Oof, still stinks. Just kidding. It's cool. Being 40 is awesome. But whatever test you're stressed about, whatever college submission you're stressed about, all these things are gonna pass, and they're not gonna be super. Your life isn't like made or broken or with college or with high school or college. There's so much more ahead of you. I kind of want to like go back to myself and just shake myself a little bit and say, you're really young. You have so much time. You have plenty of time to figure everything out. If you don't know what you want to do for a career, if you don't want to know what you want to do with your life, that's fine. Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. Have experiences, meet people. If you can live outside of your bubble, outside of your hometown, you can go travel somewhere that, where the people aren't the same as you. I think that makes us better humans to experience other people's worldviews and stuff, So that's that's the advice I would give myself, with a shake, and I'd shake myself just a little bit as well, just to really hammer the point home. You know what I mean? All right, my friends, thank you so much for listening to all of this. I hope that wasn't too rambly and incoherent. If it was, feel free to send me questions or ask me to clarify anything. And thanks so much for watching and following along. Talk to you soon. Be well, my friends. Peace.